Hey, Sean Ellis here, founder of the Speakers Group and creator of Succeed Speaking. Welcome to the first video in a three-part series titled Let's Get Real, How to Succeed Speaking in 2012. And I wanted to create this video series to help you as we're approaching the end of the year here and we're all thinking about this year ahead and thinking about our goals and plans. I wanted to create this series to share with you a little bit about what's going on in the marketplace, some strategies that are working, and to help you really refine your focus so you can move forward and have the year that you're dreaming of in this year ahead. So that's exactly what this series is about. Today, we're going to start by looking at the environment or the marketplace, because it's very different than any other time. I started in this business in 1999, and it's just shifted radically over the last 12 plus years. And of course, now we've had the economy that's been a little shaky over the last few years. We have a totally different landscape when it comes to technology. So it's very different. So we need to look at that before we can set any kind of strategy for moving forward. But I have some good news. This is going to be very exciting when I've got a lot of numbers to share with you, and I'm sorry, I'll just warn you up front, there are going to be a lot of numbers today, but these are good numbers that you're going to like. I was very excited to see them myself, and I can't wait to share them with you, because we talk so much about the bad stuff. Just wait till you see this. But that's what we're going to do today. And then after that, in our next video, we will dive into the strategy. Once we understand the landscape, then we can talk about the strategies that are working today and that will work to help you move your business forward. And then in the last session in this series, it's going to be all about action, helping you focus in on what strategies do you need to implement in your business to achieve your goals. And in that last session, it's going to be dedicated to helping you with whatever questions you may have or obstacles you need to overcome, because action is the bottom line. If we don't get action out of this, then then it's just good to know, but it doesn't really help us. So I want to close out with moving you forward. In today's session, as I said, I've got some good news for you. I'm going to share with you 5 reasons that you should be encouraged to be in this business, to be building and growing your business right now. So we'll get into those. Then I'm going to share with you one word of caution, because in the midst of all this good news, there is something you need to beware of out there. So I'll share that with you. And then we'll close out with 5 things that you need to know to compete as a speaker in this year ahead. These are not the strategies to help you get to the top, but these are the 5 essential things that you really need to know, or foundational truths that you've got to have in order to just compete, let alone succeed and rise to the top in this market. And then that will set us up for moving into strategy in the next video. But let's dive right into the good news. And for starters, let's talk about what market you are in, because I don't know if you've thought about your business in this way or not, but you are part of a bigger market that's known as the self-improvement market. At least this is true for most of you who are watching or listening. I know that there's a diverse group there, but regardless of what your topic is, if you help people live a better life and build a better business, then you are most likely in this self-improvement market. And that's something you should be very happy about, because this is an $11 billion market. And under this market, or within this market, we're talking about everything from infomercials to self-help books, motivational speakers, websites, seminars, coaching, and so on. That's all considered to be part of the self-improvement market. And that's an $11 billion market. Not only is it an $11 billion market, but check this out. There is no shortage of demand for products and programs that cater to Americans' desire to make more money, lose weight, improve their relationships and business skills, cope with stress, or obtain a quick dose of motivation. So if that's the business you're in, there is no shortage of demand. That's the good news. People need help, and you have a message, a story, expertise that can help them. So that's the good news. There's no shortage of demand. Now it's just a matter of how do you structure your business and strategize and position yourself to meet that demand, to help the people who need help in your area of expertise. Looking forward, not only is this the industry, the market has been solid, it's a rich market, but looking forward, there are forecasted gains of 5.5% per year in these years ahead through 2014 for the entire self-improvement market. This is just a kind of a side note here. I noticed this all comes from a report from Market Data Enterprises, which was released in November 2010. So it's about a year old, but that's the most recent report we have to go from. But I'm sharing this about audiobooks. Audiobooks are a $2.39 billion segment, and over 24 million Americans listen to audiobooks. Look at this, though. Self-improvement titles make up $406 million out of the total audiobook segment. $406 million. 24 plus million Americans listen to audiobooks. So when I saw that, I just had to share that as a quick tip that if you've got a book, or even if you don't, if you have a message, then you should think about putting it into an audiobook format, because again, look at this, 24 plus million Americans, $406 million. You might as well position yourself to have a piece of that market. So that's just a little side note there. Now let's move forward here and talk about the industry. So that was a little bit about the market. Let's talk about the industry. And as a speaker, you are part of the meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions industry. So what does that industry look like? Well, there's good news there too. Check this out. In 2009, there were 1.8 million meetings in the United States with 205 million participants. This is from a report by the Convention Industry Council earlier this year. Here's what's really interesting about that. Those are good numbers, but 2009 was a year that was not great in terms of the meetings industry and the economy. That was really when everybody was seeing their business get really shaky, to put it mildly. So that's what we were looking at in 2009, and we can break those numbers down a little bit further and look at the types of meetings where these participants were. I've highlighted corporate and business meetings, and then also conventions, conferences, and congresses, because that's where most of us operate. Beneath that, you've got trade shows, incentive meetings, and other meetings. And those are valid meetings or important meetings that speakers need to be aware of. But think about those top numbers, the top categories. You've got over 1.2 million corporate or business meetings, almost 270,000 conventions and conferences, and between those two, you've got over almost 160 million people there. So that right there, those two segments make up 77% of the meetings industry in terms of the number of meetings and the number of participants. So that should be very encouraging to you, because again, there are plenty of meetings to go around, and look at the participants there. Those are potential customers for the other aspects of your business, which we'll talk about when we get into the strategy. But a wisely built speaking business will have other components. You've got books, obviously, but potentially audiobooks, online training. These participants are potentially customers for those other aspects of your business. So that was looking back on the meetings industry. Now, what do we see when we look ahead? Well, more good news. Corporate incentive programs are on the rise, and Merritt's Travel, which is one of the largest corporate incentive companies, they reported double-digit growth this year, and they expect the same in 2012. And here's a quote, I believe it's from their CEO. He said, "Even the economy's sluggishness and the uncertainty of the European markets are not having an effect on our clients' programs." So we've heard a lot about the economy. We're hearing a lot about instability in Europe. At least from the Merritt's perspective, their business has stayed solid, and they still expect double-digit growth in the year ahead. So that should bode well for us on the speaking side of the business. Now let's look at the conference center segment of the meetings industry. There's also growth reported there. Here's a quote from a consultant. He said, 2012 looks like a pretty strong rebound for the second year in a row. Conference centers, that's obviously where a lot of meetings are held. So if the conference center segment is growing, that means there are more meetings, and that means they're going to need more speakers. So more good news. Here's a report that just came out this week from Reed Travel Exhibitions. They did a survey of 1,000 meetings industry buyers, and they predicted a 55% increase in the number of events that they're going to hold in this year ahead, but only a 34% increase in budgets. So what that means is the budgets are still remaining tight, but the number of meetings is going up. So all of this market data is consistent. It says that the meetings industry is doing well and is growing again, which is very good news, very welcome news for those of us who have endured these last few years. Here is something that was part of that Read Travel report that I thought you might be interested in. Here are the top 10 players in the meetings, incentives, conferences, exhibitions industry. These are the top 10 potential buyers, basically, categories of buyers. So you'll see number one is pharmaceutical, financial is in there, electronics, and you can go on down the list there. I was actually surprised to see pharmaceutical at the top because that's been it's been challenging, I guess would be one way to put it, for them over the last several years, and in terms of regulations on meetings, let alone the budget, these kinds of things. But they're the top 10 players in this industry. So as you think about your business and potential clients where you're going to be focusing in, take a look at these top 10 categories and see where you might have a good fit, and think about how they could fit into your plans for this year ahead. Okay, now let's talk speaking. We've looked at the market, the larger self-improvement market. We've looked at the meetings industry. Now let's talk about some things that are related specifically to speakers. And there's more good news here. Check this out. Again, from that market data report, they're reporting there is a changing of the guard going on right now as many gurus and thought leaders are nearing retirement. And just think about it. You can think about people like Zig Ziglar, Ken Blanchard, Tom Peters, and I'm just citing them as general references, not commenting about their businesses per se. But if you just think about who the people are that have really been looked up to as the thought leaders and those that many of us on the way up are aspiring to, well, they're all aging and nearing retirement. And as a result, they're cutting back on their schedules, which means new places are opening up. There are holes to be filled, and this is a huge opportunity for you right now. And I encourage you to think bigger, possibly bigger than you were thinking, about your business. Because if you have a message to share, if it's a powerful message that can change lives, change businesses, then why shouldn't you think of yourself as someone to potentially fill those openings, those vacancies in the marketplace? People are looking for authorities to help them, looking for authorities they can trust. And as many of these gurus are on the way out, we need new ones coming up. And I think of people like Marcus Buckingham, Keith Ferrazzi, Patrick Lencioni. These are guys that have been recognized as leading business leaders, thought leaders in recent years. So those are a few of the people that are in position to be leaders for the years ahead, for the next few decades potentially. But there's still plenty of more opportunities. So that's good news for you. And again, I encourage you to think about yourself as someone who can be one of these gurus or leaders for the future. Another note here, many of these gurus, not only are they nearing retirement, but a lot of them are creating more webinars and online courses as a way to transition from the live events into the next phase of their careers, you might say. So that, on one hand, that presents opportunities for you. That means there are more openings for live speakers since some of these other leaders are not available anymore. But take note, this is also a hint about strategy, because if they're creating more webinars and online courses, then you might just think to yourself that, okay, there could be something to that. If these gurus are doing that, maybe that's something I need to incorporate into my business too. And I know many of you already are, but those of you who have overlooked this or not thought about it or really not put much stock in it, you might want to take a second look at creating webinars and online courses and looking for some of these ways, these additional outlets for your content. Also, here's more good news for you. There are new challenges in the market today, obviously, which when there are new challenges, that means there's a need for new perspectives and new solutions. And by this, what I'm talking about, you think about things like social media. There are more and different competitors out there that companies are having to deal with and figure out how do they adjust to these competitors that maybe compete in a little different way than they're used to. You've got the economic crisis over the last few years, which has put more demand on financial and economy-related speakers. Then just the simple nature of the fact that we're all busier, we're all more connected. We're always in, always on. And as a result, lifestyle is a real issue. Keeping balance, keep from getting burned out. These are the kind of challenges that organizations and individuals are having to deal with today. And these are challenges that weren't there in years past. So what that means is there's a need for new people, new solutions to these new problems. That opens more doors for new thought leaders to come up. So if you address one of these issues, or there are many more, I'm just listing these as examples, but that means you've got an opportunity to step in and provide the resources, provide the solution that people are looking for. Here's something else that I love about the marketplace today. We now live and operate in this marketplace where authenticity drives celebrity. And by that, I mean we're in a marketplace that values real people, authentic, sincere people with real expertise and a real story and just a desire to help people. And I know that sounds a little bit soft, and that totally takes the strategy out of it. We have to integrate that with strategy if you want to really talk about what makes a speaker rise to the top. But the whole point here is just, again, the fact that we are in a marketplace that values authenticity. And I think back to when I first started in this business back in 1999. At that time, the rock star speakers were the speakers, in most cases, who were the flashiest, the slickest, the most charismatic presenters on stage. Those were the speakers that everybody wanted. But now, thanks to things like what I call the TED factor and the blog effect, we now see speakers rising to the top just because of their meaningful message. And again, because of their sincere desire to help people. And just look at the TED factor, for instance. I'm referring to, of course, TED, the very popular conferences, and you've got the TED videos online, which, by the way, the top 20 TED videos have now been seen by over 75 million viewers, or I should say they've been viewed over 75 million times. So that says something about how these types of messages are resonating. People are drawn toward this real expertise coming from authentic people where there's no shtick. And that's actually one of the TED commandments. And if you haven't seen them, go Google TED commandments, not the 10 commandments, but the TED commandments. These are the 10 commandments or tips that are given to all TED conference speakers. And no shtick is one of them. Just to go through some of them quickly, it's show us the real you, share your passions and your dreams, but also your fears, be vulnerable, speak of failure as well as success, connect with people's emotions, don't flaunt your ego. This is very different from what once upon a time would have been a successful speaker. But thanks to the rise of TED, we're seeing more and more of these speakers come into the marketplace, and these speakers rise to the top, which I love. I personally gravitate toward these types of speakers, and I see it as a huge opportunity. That means if you're someone who's really, you're in it for all the right reasons, then this market is shaping up to be perfect for you. And the blog effect, it relates to that just in terms of, we know how popular blogs are, and we all have people that we love to follow on different blogs, I'm sure. And why do we love them? Why do we follow these blogs? Well, it's because there's great help there. There's great content there. But I'm betting the people you follow them because you like them, because there's a degree of authenticity there, because you feel like you know them. So that is a huge key to success moving forward. As a speaker, think about building your business in that way, in that kind of honest, authentic way. Okay, now let's talk about the new technologies and new opportunities that are available to you. Because thanks to the advancing technology and just the internet being what it is now, you have new ways to connect with your audience and with prospective clients, and you have new ways to deliver your content. So you can connect through social networks, email, blogs. You can deliver your content through webinars and webcasts, as we talked about earlier, through ebooks, membership sites, podcasts. There are a number of ways. So this opens up the horizon is just it's tremendous for you, and you can reach people around the world. You can build a global business. You can have a global influence. So what a great time to be a speaker, an author, a thought leader. It's amazing. Now, I did tell you that there was one word of caution in this program, and here it is. Your prospects, your potential clients are overwhelmed because of the tremendous opportunities that we've talked about, and because of new technologies and a lot of this just all mixed together. We now have not only more speakers in the marketplace, and part of that is actually thanks to higher unemployment. We've seen more people come into this self-improvement space, whether it's as speakers, authors, coaches, online marketers. So that's a factor. But also, it's because that there is no barrier to enter the market. That's again the beauty of this technology. The playing field is leveled. So, anyone can use social media. Anyone can use email. Anyone can put together a website and claim their expertise, and anyone can then market their expertise because there's minimal, if any, cost to do that. So what's happened then is there are more messages out there and more channels to communicate those messages, which means our prospective clients, our target audience, they're overwhelmed. They're being bombarded in all directions. And you don't have to worry about that. You just need to know that. Because if you've got this real valuable message to share, then there are people who want to hear that message. But what you need to do is recognize that people are overwhelmed, understand these dynamics, and then you adjust your business, you adjust your strategies and tactics accordingly. That's why I share this as a word of caution. I just want you to beware of what the environment is out there. And by the way, just as a side note, while we're on this topic, I saw in the market data report on the self-improvement market that coaching fees dropped over the last couple of years, and it's because of this very thing. There are more coaches in the field, just like there are more speakers in the field and more authors and so on. So I'm sharing this here. It's really a total side note, but for those of you who include coaching as part of your business, or maybe for some of you who are coaches first and speak second, just thought I would throw that in there. It's a little interesting tidbit of information, although the report did also say that executive coaching has been stronger than life coaching, or more resistant to these fees dropping, just because it's a more specialized field and a little bit higher level niche. So just something to think about there. So now that we've got that established, let me tell you 5 things that you really need to know as a speaker. And these are 5 things these aren't the winning strategies that we'll get to in the next video, but these are 5 things you really need to know just to play the game, let alone to win. So these are the essential truths, you might say, or some foundational truths. And the first one is simply, if you want to be a speaker, then you've got to look like a speaker. And this sounds so obvious and so basic, but I wouldn't include it here if I didn't see this mistake being made over and over again. And I'm especially thinking about websites, because that's where most of your clients are going to meet you for the first time. Aside from those who read your book or see you on another stage or something of that sort. But most of the time, they're going to come to your website first, either through a web search or somebody referred them there. And if they get to your website and you don't look like a speaker, and what I mean by that, I'm not talking about the way you dress or anything of that sort. I'm talking about having the tools of the trade. For instance, your bio, photo, video, your presentation titles and descriptions, testimonials, learning objectives, and just your website in general. These sorts of things, these are the tools, or this is what we expect to see if we're looking at a speaker. So just think, if a plumber comes to your house and the plumber has no wrench, has no toolbox, and no other, well, some of the other qualities you might expect of a plumber, if they don't have those tools, would you possibly question their ability to do the job that you need to have done? Would you possibly have less confidence in them? I would think so. And it's the same with you as a speaker. There are just certain tools that you must have. So don't overlook these. And I see this a lot with people who may have a consulting business or a training business, or maybe coaching, as I mentioned, or for someone who is predominantly an author, but you've got this speaking segment of your business and you want that to be a bigger part of your business, make that obvious on your website. Make it clear that you do speaking. And the second bullet on this page is actually hire me to speak. What I mean by that is have a call to action. So don't leave it to a visitor or to a prospective client to wonder whether you can speak or to wonder what kind of track record you have. Make sure they can see that and see that very clearly. I hope that makes sense. And again, it's basic, but I just had to include it here. Next, you've got to know who is your target audience. We just talked about this $11 billion self-improvement market. We talked about the millions of meetings that are held and the millions of attendees, I should say, that you can potentially reach. Well, who is your target audience? Out of that top 10 group of buyers in the meetings industry, which of those are you going to focus on, or which do you focus on? Because it's very tempting when you've got this message that has some kind of universal appeal. It's very tempting to just, you want to take your message to the world. You want to reach everybody. But it's just not a smart way to build your business. Build it one segment at a time. So pick your target audience, define that audience, and then most importantly, you've got to ask, how do these people think? How does this group think? What's on their minds? What are their desires? What are their pain points? So you can speak to them and you can tailor your message to them. You can tailor your marketing to them. This is one of the greatest mistakes I see is speakers that aren't focused, because when you are focused, then you become more of a magnet to that target group because it's very clear that you serve this group and you really even belong to this group because you're so plugged in there. And if you don't have that kind of clear identity, then you don't have that magnetic power. So this is very important as you think about your year ahead and your marketing plans and your business initiatives. Know who your target audience is, know how they think. Now, speaking of the audience, let's talk a little bit about meeting planners. Here's some things you need to know just about meeting planners in general. We're going to talk about, first of all, what they spend on speakers, because again, if we go back to that top 10 list, the top 10 buyers in the industry, you're going to have meeting planners under each of those categories. So we're not talking about a target audience here. We're talking about meeting planners in general. There was a survey in Meetings and Conventions magazine in December 2010, so about a year ago, and it was asked, what do you spend on speakers? Well, 28% of them said they spend less than $5,000 per speaker. 49% pay between $5,000 and $20,000, and 8% pay over $20,000. So what does this mean to you and your business? Well, if you're just starting out, then you can see 28% spend less than $5,000 per speaker. That actually should be encouraging to you because that means there's a pretty decent sized market there. Starting out, you're very likely going to be in that under $5,000 category. The thing is, if you build your business wisely, if you build a really solid business, you can knock off a lot of the competition in that category, because what you see in a lot of the sub $5,000 range are speakers who are just getting started and they look like they're just getting started. But today, there's no need to look like you're just getting started. And I'm not trying to fake anybody out or be something that you're not. I'm talking about building a nice looking website, post a decent video, get some testimonials. And there are ways you can do that even before you speak through, sending out white papers and reports. Just get some feedback on your content. And of course, do some local events. Whatever you do, there are ways to get testimonials. But these sorts of things, you can make yourself look reputable, look trustworthy. A meeting planner wants to hire a speaker that they trust, that they feel confident that speaker is going to deliver. So the more you can establish that image, and again, I just want to be clear, I'm not talking about anything false. I'm talking about being honest, but just represent yourself the best you can, because I've seen a lot of the speakers in this sub $5,000 range, and I'll just say there's a lot of room for improvement there in terms of the presentation and the packaging. Now, at the 49% that are paying this $5,000 to $20,000, I would say that's pretty consistent with what I've found here at the speakers group. Most of our speakers are in that range. I'd actually even narrow it down a little further. Most of our speakers, our bookings, are in the $7,500 to $15,000 range. And then 8% are paying over $20,000. So that's a pretty small portion of the market. One thing I will tell you about these fees, there's a lot of thinking when a speaker is early in their career, maybe someone just starting to think about speaking, the thought naturally is, wow, I need to get my fee up there to $20,000, $25,000, $50,000. That's when I'll really make it, and that's when I'll have a really highly profitable business. Well, that's true, but there aren't that many speakers who rise to that level. But there are a number of speakers in that $5,000 to $20,000 range, even $5,000 to $10,000, who have high 6- and 7-figure businesses. And that's because their business is much more than speaking. There's the author element, there's the seminar element perhaps, but there's online content. There are just a number of ways, as we talked about earlier, a number of ways you can get your content out there, webinars, webcasts, so many channels. So you've got to build a business that includes all of these different elements. And that is the true key to success, both financially and also extending your impact. You want to reach as many people as possible, right? The tagline for Succeed Speaking is helping speakers have more fun, reach more people, and make more money in their speaking business. Well, if you want to reach more people and make more money, there's nothing wrong with being in that $5,000 to $20,000 range. The key is how you build your business, how you structure your business. And we'll talk more about that in the strategy session coming up in the next video. And I've actually got some brand new stats that will show you why that this is really the way to build a speaking business for the future. It's no longer optional. This is the way you have to do it if you really want to succeed for the long term. Okay, now let's talk about what topics planners are booking. Here we go. These are the top topics according to this same survey. Motivational is at the top, probably no surprise there. 69% of meeting planners say they book some type of motivational speaker, followed by 62% saying they book some type of industry-related speaker. Then you've got future trends, humor, life balance, technology, change management. And again, I would say our experience here at the Speakers Group is pretty consistent with that. Under technology, our focus, or what we've seen a lot lately, is social media, which is no surprise really, but that's the angle on technology that people are interested in. And then change management, that's a natural just because of the way things are changing. Just like we're talking about how the speaking profession, the speaking business has changed in the markets and industries that we play in. Well, the same thing is going on in every industry. So change management has been pretty hot. The reason I'm sharing this with you, and the reason it's something you need to know, is because obviously it's just helpful to know what meeting planners are booking. But taking this to the next level, thinking about it from a strategic standpoint, you need to look at these broad categories, because these are broad categories. You have, subcategories under each of them. Look at motivational, for instance. 69% of planners are saying they book motivational speakers. Now, are all motivational speakers created alike? No, of course not. Under that, you've got sports figures, you've got the achievers, the mountain climbers, you've got people that just have a powerful life story, overcoming obstacles, and the list goes on and on. That's all under motivational. So what you need to do, you need to be unique. You need to have a brand, an identity, of course, because if you just say I'm a motivational speaker, well, okay, you're in this 69%, that's good, but you're also in this crowd of speakers where everybody looks alike if you just say I'm a motivational speaker. So you want to tie into one of these topics or some of these topics so that you're plugging in with what is in demand. This is telling you what's in demand. So you want to plug in with what's in demand, but then you want to have your little unique take on that in-demand topic. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, the big question as we wrap all this up, we've talked about the market, we've talked about the industry, we've talked about what's going on with speakers and what you need to know. The big question is, where do you fit in to all of this? Not do you fit in, but where do you fit in? When you digest all of this material, when you process through all this information, you think about the opportunities and the niches, you think about those top 10 buyers, you think about these popular topics and fee ranges. Where do you fit in that? Where can you carve out your space? Which is probably a better way to say it. How do you capture part of this market to achieve your goals? Because that's why I'm sharing this with you. First of all, I want you to be encouraged. I want you to know there are tremendous opportunities out there. We're all beaten down all the time and led to believe that, oh, geez, there's just no way to make it now. There's just no way. No, there are tremendous opportunities. We just have to do things a little bit differently. We have to maybe be a little bit more intentional than we did in the past. We have to be more strategic. But if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to make the investment of time, money, whatever it takes to package and position yourself effectively, then you can succeed in 2012 and 2013 and for years and years and years into the future, and you can be one of that next generation of gurus and thought leaders. But you've just got to ask yourself, process through this and ask, how do you capture part of this market and achieve your goals? And as it turns out, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in part 2 of this series. We're going to be talking about some of the winning strategies. And these are strategies that I've observed from my 12 plus years working with some of the most successful speakers in the business, combined with a very fresh report. I was just at the first annual conference of the Experts Industry Association a few weeks ago, and I'll share with you some of the strategies that we learned there when we got a behind-the-scenes look at some of the #1 best-selling authors, top online marketers, top speakers, as they shared their strategies with us and gave their projections or predictions about where things are headed. I'll include some of that in the next video as well. So now that we wrap up, I hope that you are encouraged. I hope you're excited about your business for the year ahead. And I would just ask you 3 things. First of all, please comment below. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it to be helpful, comment below and just let me know. I would love to hear from you. Let me know what encouraged you. Of course, let me know if you have any questions, but it'd be great to hear from you below. Also, sign up if you want to make sure that you receive the next video in the series. Sign up below. Also, if you'd like to receive these slides, I will send you the slides from this video so you can have all these stats and refer back to them. So just sign up below for that. And then finally, share this with someone else who needs good news. There is plenty of bad news to go around for everyone, but we need more good news. At least I think so, and I hope you agree with that. So share this with some of your speaker friends, with aspiring or emerging speakers, anyone you know who needs to get some good news about this industry and to be encouraged going into the year ahead. Please share it with them on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, email, any way you want. Just make sure they see this video. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it, and I look forward to joining you again on the next video, and I look forward to helping you succeed in the year ahead. See you soon.